Hello, folks. Ha- Happy to see so many friends and new community members in the audience. Um, we're just about to start. We'll probably give another 2 minutes to give time for the other folks to join. All right. Looks like we are nearly 60 already. You guys can hear me well on stage? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Like I said, let's just give another minute so so we can hopefully gather everyone. There's lots to share in this epic event today.
I think Justin's just having an issue with his mic. We'll just give him a chance to leave and rejoin. Hello, everyone. We haven't quite started yet. Justin, is your mic up and running? You're not late. We haven't quite kicked off yet. Could someone give me a thumbs up in the chat just to make sure that you can hear me? Thanks, Todd.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Hey, I can hear you, Justin.
There we go. Gotta love some audio issues in the morning. Sorry about that.
I actually can't hear you now, Pradeek.
How about now?
That's better. There we go.
There we go.
How about you,
Okay.
Ryan?
Hey, everyone.
Okay.
Full
We're
house.
all loud and clear. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. And awesome to see you all here. I'm really happy to see some familiar faces as well as new community members on the audience. Greetings to the entire Subspace community. A warm welcome to our August community gathering. We deeply appreciate your effort to accommodate this event in your schedules and to be present here today now. Brace yourselves. Believe me, today promises a wealth of cool updates and exciting projects coming your way. And how do we get this? How to get this far, you ask? Well, totally real. Thanks to the community, thanks to the mutual support among community members and ambassadors, thanks to the dedications towards our core team, flagging issues across the various Discord channels, the timely feedback on forum, community discussions about our system's efficiency and performance, hyping us up on social media. We owe you a profound and genuine thank you. Speaking of rock stars, I'm happy to spot in the audience some of our former apprentices crew promoted this week to the role of ambassadors this week. Hats off to them. Congratulations. Round of applause. Really stoked to see you here. And yes, we didn't fail to notice our international channels are on fire. We often see frequent activity on Russian, Ukrainian, and Chinese channels, and now increased interaction and good vibes in the Hindi and Vietnamese channels as well. So special shout out to the ambassadors and amazing folks lighting up those chats. It feels really, really inspiring watching our grow globally. Thank you so much. Now, on stage, distinguished individuals as well. Community manager Justin Hill, thank you for hopping on.
Of course. Thanks everybody for having me here. As you all know, I've been a part of this community for a long time, so it's exciting to see how far we've all come. You all know I greatly appreciate your all support, and I'm excited to spill the beans on what we have for you in store today.
Amazing. Here our esteemed former ambassador and now head of the ecosystem at Subspace, Jim Counter, as we lovingly call him Big Jim. Greetings, Jim.
Oh, thanks for joining us, everyone. As Pradeek has said, yeah, my journey to where I sit now is through the community. I was a farmer and I progressed to become an apprentice ambassador, then an ambassador, and finally moved up to the team earlier in the year. So I'm really stoked to be here, and yeah, we appreciate you, as Pradeek said.
Some among you might recognize Ryan, also a member of our ecosystem team. Super eager to hear what you got in store for us, Ryan.
Yeah, for sure. So I come with two ecosystem initiatives, community initiatives. The first one is our documentation competition. So as an open source project, it really truly is our lifeblood, the documentation. And so every month we're going to choose one pull request and give that user $250 of USDC. And we really do not expect like transformative changes to win. It could be typos, extra info, etc. And honestly, compared to how many hours I've spent in hackathons, 250 is a really good return on investment. I've spent weekends on hackathons and gotten literally nothing. And so there are guides on our community page on the docs to show you how to locally set up the docs. And please reach out to me or any other ecosystem team member with any Git technical issues. And I also have another initiative. So we really want to hear from you guys as mainnet is approaching, and we're going through all the steps approaching it. And so we haven't had a survey since Gemini 2, and we have a lot more community members now. So I would love for you guys to fill out the survey just to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you guys think of Subspace, and we would love any feedback at all. Thanks, everyone.
Sure. Brilliant and rewarding endeavor, Ryan. Really hope the community will jump right in to enhance the documentation and shine a light on what the thoughts are on the survey. On topic of community contributions, by the way, word on the streets is Justin leads a very interesting project on the localization front. What's the recipe, Justin?
Yeah. So as you all know, we do our best to support a global community. We've always tried to move forward with this with our international channels. And moving forward, we have recently launched localization onto our documentation as well. So the way our localization is working, if you look in the top right on the doc site, you'll now see a little language dropdown. We've tried to do our best to select the top 15 and also the most inclusive languages for our community, for you all in particular. So if you notice a language that you speak that's not there, feel free to mention it. We'll be happy to add it. But we've tried to kind of cover our basis and get everything covered from the start there. The way our localization is working right now is we are utilizing a service called Crowdin. This service gives us a translation dashboard. For anyone who wants to localize, they can easily go here. They can find the language that they speak, and they can provide translations for our documentation. Ultimately, our hope with this initiative is to really broaden it to a global scale. We've done a good job of trying to be global, but as far as our documentation goes, admittedly, it has been strictly English in the past, and I think that's something that we can drastically improve upon. Overall, if you would like to participate in our translations, you can visit our Crowdin page here. I just threw it in the chat for everybody. And if you're curious more about how the translation works and kind of looking for a more step-to-step guide, we've also created one here in our GitHub as well. Ultimately, we are also working on a little bit of an incentive structure for our localization as well. So we're trying to find some good ways to include some fun gamifications and provide some good incentives to keep you all eager to participate, but also just to reward your hard work and effort, because obviously translation does not take a little amount of time. It's quite the investment, and it's quite the skill as well. So we want to make sure we reward that. So we do have an incentive structure coming down the line. We hope to have some more details for you all in the coming days and coming weeks for exactly how that will look. But localization is currently live on the documentation, so you can check it out now. And if you have any feedback, suggestions, ideas, or any improvements we could make, feel free to let us know. We're all ears. And those could even be part of your contributions for the document competition that Ryan had previously mentioned as well, as far as improving that localization process on our documentation. So feel free to submit PRs, reach out, and we look forward to all your feedback, and hopefully we look forward to getting our documentation to a state where it can be read globally. Additionally, we have been moving forward with renaming some of our projects. In the past, we've been pretty guilty of using standard names: Simple CLI, Advanced CLI, the Telemetry Server, Block Explorer, things along these lines. Moving forward, we are proud to introduce our first big rename of our products of the Simple CLI. The Simple CLI will be getting renamed to Pulsar. We've gone with this direction, obviously, as I mentioned, to clear up the naming confusion, but also to give a clear mission and objective of what Pulsar is going to do moving forward. Obviously, we stick with the space theme, but in our eyes, the Simple CLI is going to be pulsing with new features for the community. So we hope to really just kind of embrace that methodology and hopefully clear up a lot of confusion between which CLI are you using and these kinds of things when troubleshooting. Additionally, we will have some more name changes coming down the line, but we wanted to start with that one. You will start to see those renames reflecting into our documentation. You may notice our GitHub repository has already been renamed, and you may start to see that branding reach out into a broader level.
Cool. Pulsar. This actually brings us to the first thrilling surprise of today's event. It is we're launching Gemini 3F. Yes, indeed. Bear in mind that this is right now only the advanced CLI operates. We anticipate, as Justin mentioned, the Pulsar, the previously simple CLI launch pretty soon. Stay tuned. I'll share here the links on the chat in just a second. On the road from 3E to 3F, we tackle a series of issues either reported by the community or encountered by our core team. Some of the most frequently reported one was the distributed storage network sync is now activated by default, which offers us a more orderly condition to nodes since they can obtain history from the distributed storage network directly rather than from fellow nodes. We also expect considerable performance improvements. On Pulsar, you'll find on the advanced CLI, you'll find some useful changes in farming command structure, as well as other various bugs fixes we encounter along the way. There's also formula plot resizing. Jim, would you like to shed some light on this?
Sure. So this has to be either the most requested feature or one of the top requested features is, can I resize my plot without having to wipe? And we now support it at long last. I'm sure that'll make many of you within the farming community very happy. We've released domains. I'm going to talk on those a little bit more shortly, but we've released domains and we support an EVM domain runtime out of the box. Again, I'm going to speak on that a bit more shortly. We've also implemented sector expiry and replotting. So what does that mean? That means when we introduce new data to the network, we need to refresh, we need to rebalance that data and spread it across all of our farming nodes. And the way we do that is we will expire sectors after a certain amount of time and then replot them with fresh data. So it means that new data coming into the network benefits from our storage, our distributed storage network. So yeah, I think that hits the main points there. But of course, 3F doesn't end there because I want to talk a little bit about Gemini 3F incentivized testnet. So Gemini 3 will be the last testnet before we move over to what we're calling mainnet beta. Yes, that means that there will be no Gemini 4. I'm sure there are members of the community out there who remember previous Geminis, maybe even some who remember back to Aries and earlier. I'd love to read what was running when you joined the project in the comments. I don't mind admitting it makes me a little emotional thinking about the end of an era this milestone represents. But we are on to bigger and better things. And before we bid a fond farewell, our goals for the final phases of the Gemini 3 testnet are 1, to build a vibrant and engaged network of as many farmers as possible who will follow us into mainnet and secure our consensus from day 1. 2, we want to test our software at scale under conditions as close to mainnet as possible. This means as many nodes on the network and as much space pledged as we can collectively muster. With that front of mind, we're putting the final touches on our incentivized testnet design. So we can't, unfortunately, share all the exact details just yet. I'm sure there are going to be questions at the end. But what we can share right now is that Gemini 3 will be our longest running testnet yet. And because of that, we plan to make the rewards on the table reflect our appreciation of the unwavering commitment we receive from our community. Details on how those rewards are structured will be coming soon. We will be starting the incentivized phase on Gemini 3F once the core contributors are happy that it's in a stable state. The trigger will take the form of a start block, which we will announce in advance to give everyone time to get as many nodes as they want up and running. I expect the notice period will be around a week at the moment. There are a number of features we need to introduce to the network before we can hit mainnet. This will be an exciting time for everyone in the ecosystem as we deliver the final few milestones on our inexorable march to mainnet. A roadmap listing the required features is being worked on as we speak and will be in community hands as soon as it's ready. As we add these features to the protocol, we will need to reset the network. We will need to reset it multiple times, something we haven't done previously. But we're also aiming to streamline this process with less disruptive forklift runtime upgrades as we progress through the incentivized phase. Having said that, hard resets to new networks are a great opportunity for attentive farmers to earn high proportions of block rewards, while there are not many other with plots up and running. So it's time to round up all the disk space you can lay your hands on and start thinking about how you will be maximizing on the opportunity you will be being presented with here. There's one final item I'd like to discuss on Gemini 3, and that is the space race. Towards the end of the incentivized testnet, we'll be hosting an exciting space race phase to ensure consensus is as strong as possible for the first day of mainnet. We'll be asking you, the community, to help drive us through our final stage by pledging as much space to the network as possible. The finer details are still being worked out on this special event, so watch for the upcoming announcements on our socials. I hope you're all going to join us for the Gemini 3 incentivized testnet.
Whoa, that's amazing. Remarkable. And indeed, well, in that spirit, as we march towards the incentivized testnet and mainnet, our team has been working on a number of initiatives to provide further support, additional support to our farmers. I'm pretty sure Justin is itching to talk about one of them, right, Justin?
Definitely. Alrighty. So we have been, as we all know, moving forward with 3F. So today I wanted to give you all a little walkthrough on exactly how that would all work. Give me just a moment here to pull everything up, and we can run through on the setup process for the Gemini 3F. It's worth noting the docs are giving me a little bit of a build issue currently, so I am going to be following the GitHub documentation until we can get that docs build issue resolved. Gotta love nothing better than the build failing as we're expecting it to work. But without further ado, as Fredik already posted in our channel here, we do have our repository, and you should be able to see my screen here just shortly.
Justin,
Just
sorry to interrupt you. As you get ready to showcase the walkthrough, wasn't there an initiative to provide an additional farmer office hours to as a supplemental session to help our farmers as we stride towards this exciting march towards definite mainnet?
Definitely, yes. My mistake. I was one section too far on the agenda there. We are, as they mentioned, we are launching a farmer office hours. So those of you who have been here for a long time may remember we used to do our weekly office hours. It would be a similar event to this one, where every Wednesday we would get together and chat about, the various subspace related items. As time has gone on, obviously it hasn't made sense to run those events continuously. As such, we kind of split them up into our monthly community calls, what we're in today. But we have also realized that there is no longer a space for just farmers to really discuss their issues in a one-on-one, over voice, quick manner. As such, we've decided to bring back office hours, but specify them for farmers. So our farmer office hours will be a place where me, maybe Jim, maybe Fredik, and other employees will be present. And we will probably hang out for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour every 2 weeks to just discuss farmer issues, any ideas people have, any feedback anybody has, or any criticisms even. Ultimately, we just want to provide a safe space for everybody to really dive into it and kind of have that direct ear with the Subspace community and with the Subspace staff. Anyone's welcome, and we really look forward to having you all there, and we really hope to empower all of our farmers as well, because obviously being that baseline for our consensus, they're absolutely vital to ensure you all are taken care of, supported, and empowered. So So we look to be launching our farmer office hours starting here soon. So I would look out for those events in the Discord event channel.
Awesome, Justin. Thank you so much for that update. As we get ready for the walkthrough, this subject actually leads us to the next hot topic we feel psyched about and couldn't wait to introduce: stake wars. Jem, can you perhaps give us an introductory account of what this looks like and what's in store for the farmers in this competition? Spoiler alert, it sounds like farmers will interact with the network in a very exciting way.
Sure. Thanks, Pradeek, for the intro. So, as if releasing 3F and announcing incentivized testnet wasn't enough excitement for one day, I want to talk a little bit about something we've got planned called Stake Wars. Sorry. To do that, first, I'm going to need to recap on what farmers do and why. They pledge space to the network, which is used to build a plot. And the plot is used for two things. Firstly, to store things, but secondly, to solve puzzles based on the data being stored. This second feature is how a farmer proves that they're storing data instead of just saying they are in order to game the system. It is also how the Subspace protocol consensus works. The data-based puzzle solving is at the core of how we are an eco-friendly proof of archival storage network. More details about this and how it solves the blockchain trilemma are available on the website and YouTube. It is this consensus that is an important area of functionality when we want to ensure that something has happened in the way we designed it to, and to confirm that everyone participating agrees that the correct result is what has been finalised into the chain. So what kind of things should our farmers be agreeing on? Enter execution. When talking about execution, what we really mean is that transactions submitted by users have been processed as we would expect, consistently, and can be verified as such. But farmers don't execute, they run consensus. Correct. It's time to introduce a new class of citizen to the network, the operator. Operators run a subspace node the same way as farmers do. They do not have to run a farm though, and their nodes are configured slightly different. The operator's node is responsible for executing the transactions that users want to run. Those users pay a gas fee for the privilege in exactly the same way as you're familiar with on other networks such as Ethereum. At this point, we need to step back a moment and talk about subspace domains. A domain in this context is an execution environment that sits on top of the farmer network. Farmers provide consensus, which is the sequencing of the transactions, and operators provide execution of those ordered transactions. Domains can be thought of as sovereign chains or roll-ups, and those of you familiar with the modular stack may recognize some of these terms and concepts. This separation of concerns and modular approach is a key to our scalability. Anyone can deploy a domain as easily as submitting a transaction, and documentation on how to do that is in the works and will be with the community soon. The unique properties of the Subspace network makes it inexpensive to deploy them and means there is no limit to the number of domains we can support. Out of the box, we support an Ethereum virtual machine or EVM compatible domain runtime, though it will be possible in the future to produce your own runtime to tailor the behavior of a domain and its chain to your particular use case. Subspace will be releasing a shared EVM domain instance for anyone who wants to use it without spinning up their own one. We're calling it Nova. Documentation is being polished as we speak, and we hope that you will join us on Nova to run your Solidity contracts. But back to operators. An operator will run execution for a domain. They will do that by staking a number of slashable subspace credits to provide crypto economic security to execution. If they act maliciously, they will pay the penalty of forfeiting some of their stake. The higher their stake, the greater the chance they have to be picked to execute a transaction and therefore earn a transaction fee. Though the story doesn't quite end there, as their self-stake can be amplified with nominator stake. Enter another new class of protocol citizen, the nominator. An operator can be picked by anyone who holds subspace credits as their favoured place to stake. A token holder who stakes with an operator is a nominator. They have nominated the operator. The operator's total stake is calculated by summing their self-stake and the total nominated stake as pledged by all their nominators. An increase in total stake leads to an increase in the number of transactions they execute, and therefore an increase in the amount of transaction fees earned. In return, the nominator gets a portion of the transaction fees the operator is paid. The mechanics and market dynamics are a bit more nuanced than this, but we're covering the big items here, and you can expect more documentation around being an operator and a nominator to be coming from the team soon. So, now with an idea about domains, operators and nominators, it's time to introduce Stake Wars. This is our opportunity to test all the moving parts that make up execution and staking on domains. There will be a number of phases. We're going to start with a slow and steady bootstrapping stage where a number of permissioned, experienced teams are invited to help with setup and to identify any initial bugs. After any updates required are released and everyone is happy with the stability, we will transition into a phase where the allow list that permissions execution is removed, and anyone with the minimum stake can join the network as an operator. Finally, we will activate nomination, which is where token holders of any class will be able to earn additional rewards on the test subspace credits they have stacked. Of course, the TSSC that farmers have earned from their testnet plots will be the main path to nominating. So why would you sit on your stack earning 0% when you could be accumulating even more through picking a strong operator and getting a portion of their transaction fees? This is a call to action to all farmers. There will be a dedicated reward pool separate from the incentivized testnet rewards for Stake Wars, though the exact details of the reward structure are still being worked on. And please bear in mind, this is an early sketch of what we are planning. It is subject to change, but hopefully it will give you a flavour for what we currently have designed. Our overarching goal for Stake Wars is to shake down domains, execution, and the staking contracts. More details will be released as we finalise them, and we really hope you'll join us for Stake Wars.
Fascinating. Both operators and nominators joining the fray, joining the game. Anticipate several queries emerging from this. We hope to address as many of those today. If not, feel free to share your questions across the Discord channels. And can't wait for Stake Wars episode 1 to start. Without further ado, I pass the mic back to Justin. If you want to proceed with a walkthrough.
Awesome. Yeah, let me get my screen share going and we will get that moving forward. Alrighty. And on today's walkthrough, we'll be walking through with the advanced CLI. As I mentioned, our documentation site, of course, right as this call was kicking off, started giving us some build issues. So I will check the main repo. We'll be getting those documentation issues resolved here pretty rapidly after the call. But for the time being, in the sake of doing it live, we'll keep it moving forward. You should see my screen populate here in just a moment and see the farming documentation instructions. Awesome. So as we all know, when it comes to running the Subspace Farmer, with the advanced CLI, you will be downloading 2 files. So we will download the node and the farmer separately. This is a little different from Pulsar or the simple CLI, as that is one file that was a little bit consolidated. Don't worry, the Pulsar will be coming out here shortly. But we just, in the sake of getting this guy moving forward. Alrighty, so first thing we'll need to do when we go to our documentation site is go to our releases. If we click into our releases, that'll take us to the full GitHub release page. It should take you to the very top, to the latest one. We'll see Gemini 3F 2023, August 18. If we scroll down, we'll notice there's various different files here. So, as all versions, we still do have our Skylake versions and our legacy version, referred to as version 2 in this case. In my processor, it is a newer system. So if you're running a processor that's older than 2009, 2010 era, you're going to want to download the version 2. So in this case, the one that says V2 right in here. If your processor is newer than that, probably 2014, 2015 or later, you should be fine to download the Skylake version. Like I mentioned, in my case, I'll be going with the Skylake versions. And we'll want to download the Farmer as well as the node. There we go. Looks like it was hiding some from me. There we go. And the node for Windows Skylake 2023. Perfect. Alrighty, now that we have our files downloaded, we can go back to our documentation. As with always running with a Farmer with Subspace, you will need a wallet set up prior. In my case, I do have Subwallet here, so we'll be utilizing that. You can also use the Polkadot.js extension if you prefer. Either one will help you generate the wallet. The one thing you want to make sure is that you get the wallet address in the Subspace format. So it should start with an ST. In most cases, you can select that by opening your wallet and selecting which chain you would like to use. Here we go. And this is just a testing account. Awesome. As we can see, I have Subspace Network, and we will get our address. From here, we will hop down into our startup instructions. So with the advanced CLI, you are going to first start the node, and then you will start the Farmer afterwards. As we can see here, we do have our node startup command. So we'll want to copy that. And in my case, generally you'll just replace the file name here. In this case, obviously it's subspace-farmer/Windows x86 Skylake, yada, yada, yada. Oftentimes I'll find myself renaming it to just Subspace Node to save myself some time. And then you'll want to go ahead and open up your terminal. Me being on Windows, in this case, I'm going to make sure to use PowerShell, as command prompt on Windows does not cooperate very well. And then we'll just go to our profile where we have our download located. And then we'll paste our command. So I copied mine from a notepad over here, but as mentioned, it's just the same as this command. The only thing I've changed is the file name to reflect the accurate file name that's on my system, and then the name of my node. This is just what it would show up in the telemetry server as. And go ahead and hit enter. Nothing better than facing issues. Sometimes PowerShell can have issues with the backticks. Haven't in the past, but just in the sake of moving along, I'll go ahead and move this into a single line. Alrighty. Looks like it is fighting us today. Give me just a moment here to get this figured out.
You should never do a live demo. It's something I was told previously. It will never go quite right when you really need it to.
And admittedly, you know, for how many I've done, I think I was due for some errors.
Yes, my experience has been much worse. I think you're well overdue, Justin. But yeah, just bear with us for a moment.
And as all terminal issues, it's a very simple issue. I just accidentally selected the farmer file command instead of the node file command. And that just shows that we're all human. We all make mistakes. Let me just get that sorted out.
I have noticed that PowerShell doesn't like a space after backticks. I was scratching my head on that one for half an hour the other day before I realised what I'd done.
Definitely. So what I did here was a simple mistake of just mingled my file names by accident. So instead of farmer, obviously we need node in there, like I mentioned. So from there, we hit enter, and we get our chain to start up. So as this guy goes off, I will go ahead and open up another terminal instance, and we'll move on to the farm. Now with the farmer command, as we can see, you do need to input a couple more things than we needed in the node command. First off being the reward address. So this is going to be your wallet address in which obviously you want to receive rewards at. And then we also need to specify our path to our farm. So this is where we want to allocate, our plot files and things along those lines. And then our farm size. So this is how big of a plot do you want? 10 gigabytes, 100 gigabytes, 100 terabytes, etc. Give me just a moment here while I pull up that command, and we'll get that moving forward. And it's worth noting as well, on my system, I can't drag it over to show you, but I got a Windows security pop-up for the firewall when you start the node. This is because the node is a peer-to-peer network, so it's connecting over ports. Just hit allow access, and that will allow the proper connections for the node. I have noticed sometimes you don't get the pop-up and it does not connect. In that case, just check your firewall settings within the within Windows itself. And because this is my first sync, and I am lagging up a little bit here, so just give me a moment while my system catches up. Alrighty, there we go. Sometimes that initial startup can just, as it's syncing into the initial network, can take some time for everything to catch up. Especially on my computer when I have a million browser tabs open and everything. Alrighty. And as we can see, the syncing is making progress. We started out at best of 0, 61, 155, 231, and it's chugging along. And as I mentioned, we will want to open up another terminal instance as well for our farmer. Perfect. And we will also need to run this one out of the same directory that we are running the node out of. This is just wherever your binary files are located. In my case, it's just in the downloads for now. Oh, not documents. There we go. And I have my farmer command here. So as mentioned, we have obviously the file name. Made sure to use the correct one for this time. And then we have the farm initialization command. We list our reward address. As you can see, mine starts with EST, so I know it is a subspace address. For the path, I have specified a plots folder in my C drive. And for our plot size, we have specified 10 gigabytes. Obviously, just a modest size for testing. You can do whatever size you prefer. There is no upper bounds limit on the plotting. And actually, we would like to see some of the larger farmers out there test this out. We know in this past there have been some issues with the larger plots, so as far as performance goes, so we would love to see if you all could give that a shot and give us your feedback. But from here, we'll just go ahead and hit enter. We'll see the farmer starts to run through some things. And we can see that our node is still syncing along as well. You may notice the accepting new connections as your farmer starts to connect. And from here, we're off to the races. Obviously, it can take some time for your node to sync up to the highest target. So that's generally the best way to track your progress as far as your initial sync goes, is seeing where your best number is at compared to your target number. In my case, I still have about a few thousand blocks to go, but I'm making steady progress already, considering I just started it at this moment. So overall, that's the main walkthrough for how to start the advanced CLI. Not too much different than in the past, but those who have been here a while may notice that some of the farmer commands and the syntax has been changed especially. So make sure to look out for that. And beyond that, happy farming, everybody.
Terrific, Justin. Thank you so much for the drill. We got some remaining minutes now for the audience to share your questions, your concerns, considerations, or any feedback at all you might be wanting to post on the chat window. We're happy to address those.
I see we've got one question, but before I answer it, I just want to commend Justin on his bravery for doing these live demos. That's the first one I've seen go wrong, and I've seen Justin do quite a few of them. It's unlucky today. Okay, so I can see that Ivan's asked about desktop version of the Farmer. That is another great question that we do get asked quite frequently, and we appreciate that there is a segment of farmers who would really appreciate the desktop Farmer to come back. Now, we are open to community contributions for the desktop Farmer. We would not expect that to be done for free. And we are hoping to get a structure in place to be able to offer grants. If this is something that interests you and you've got the experience and you're able to produce desktop applications, ideally we'd want it to run on multiple platforms, then shoot me a DM. Even if we don't quite have our grant structure in place just yet, maybe we can come to some other bounty arrangement. But yeah, desktop Farmer is definitely on the roadmap, but we are kind of fully focused on the protocol side of things. We want to make sure that we're feature complete so we can reach mainnet as soon as possible.
One thing to add to that as well, Jim, is initially, when we first sunsetted our early versions of the Subspace desktop, we transitioned that effort.
Okay. We lost Justin. I'm sure that was going to be an interesting point that Justin was about to make. But yeah, thanks for the question, Ivan. Do we have any other questions? Pradeep, have you spotted any? I know we've answered a couple as we go along.
Yeah, there's a question on whether the Gemini 3F will start as an unincentivized and whether or not it will turn into an incentivized test at some point.
Yes. So hey, Zorinox, I know that you're an old hand. You've been around for a while. Yes, absolutely. So the idea is that 3F, obviously we've launched today. I imagine you're probably one of the guys who are subscribed on GitHub, so you may well already know that. But yeah, the idea is that we need to make sure that the core contributors are happy with the stability of the network. But when that's happened, when we reach that point, we expect that we will be announcing the start block for incentivized rewards. As I mentioned earlier, something that we haven't done previously is that we're going to actually run the incentivized phase over several iterations of the network. We need to introduce certain features so that we can actually run stake wars, for example, and we need to get to a point where we've got everything in place we need to so that we can launch mainnet. So your specific question is incentivized, non-incentivized test-only environment. Okay, so maybe we've mangled the wording on one of our announcements, but the plan is certainly that 3F starts non-incentivized, but then when we're confident in the stability, it moves over to being incentivized.
Yeah, that's another one from the general. Congratulations, the general, a newly minted ambassador, promoted this week. He asked whether the network bandwidth requirements will be the same like the past Gemini testnets. I think yes, as far as I know, Jim.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any big changes. So I've got my node running at home. I haven't had the kids run in moaning that Netflix has gone down. So it's looking good. It feels just anecdotally the same as previous networks. So if you've run on 3E, for example, you can expect about the same amount of bandwidth usage. I'm happy to be corrected by anyone who may know more about the situation than I do, but certainly my experience has been that it's the same as previous iterations of the network. Justin, welcome back. Sorry, did you want to finish your thought about the desktop farmer?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. My Discord just kind of kicked me out. All I was trying to mention was that underpinning Pulsar, also known as the Simple CLI, is the Subspace SDK. So this was an initiative from some of our developers to kind of simplify developing with the node and farmer. So if anyone is interested in working potentially on the Subspace desktop or the GUI-based application, that would definitely be a good place to start. That was our initial intention, and it's still kind of, I guess, our plan moving forward was to build out that SDK to support Pulsar, and then eventually support, hopefully, some more fully fleshed out GUI applications and things along those lines.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. So you've got the building blocks available, and you can take inspiration from the way that that Pulsar uses those building blocks. So hopefully that will give anyone who's interested in taking a look at how the kind of the nuts and bolts of how you might build a Windows app, a desktop app, that you can take inspiration from Pulsar.
Definitely. And we did have a question earlier that I actually wanted to mention. One of the first questions we got in, Willie M was asking how long our incentivized testnet will last.
That's a great question. We don't have a date. So how long the incentivized testnet will last is a function of the network features we need to reach mainnet beta. So we are going to publish, as I mentioned earlier, a roadmap of what those features are and roughly when we expect them to slot in. We are expecting to run the incentivized portion of Gemini 3 across multiple networks, starting with 3F. So we're going to run it through 3F, through 3G. At some point, we're going to introduce forkless runtime upgrades, which will mean that maybe we keep the same network name, maybe we don't. I'm not entirely sure. I need to get feedback from engineering on that. But ultimately, how long the testnet will run depends on how things go with us delivering those features. Now, we are planning. I'd love to be able to give you a sketch of what we've got planned for the incentive structure, but we just need to make sure that we've dotted the I's and crossed the T's everywhere. But we want to recognise the fact that this will be a longer test net than usual, and those of us who, those of members of the community who join us on that journey will be rewarded, respecting the amount of time that they've dedicated. So watch this space. I'm trying to be very careful about what I say, but yes, how long it will run, I can't tell you at the moment. It's a function of features. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. We may have skipped one from Ivan, our distinguished engagement ambassador. Do you plan to restore desktop version of the farmer? Many participants of our community who use their own PCs for farming find this important, and it's very convenient and easy to start farming with desktop version.
Yeah, so we have covered that. We mentioned that we're open to contributions. Our plan is to support one, but our engineering department is focused on delivering the protocol side of things at the moment.
Awesome. Well, terrific.
Feels a little bit like the questions have dried up, but of course, everyone can reach out to us on Discord.
Yes. And this has been terrific. Thank you so much for everyone's participation. We peaked at 85 today. Thank you for your feedback and sharing your questions and concerns. And like Jim said, we look, if there's anything that any question that emerges, feel free to share that across Discord forum. We will be more than happy to address those, and let's get the 3F started and move forward, marching towards mainnet.
Yeah, thanks for joining, everyone.
Of course, thank you, everybody. We appreciate your continued dedication, and we hope you'll have a good day.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for making the time.